Hello and welcome back to the Second Take Podcast. My name is Calvin Williams. I'm here with my co-host Marco Rogers, and today we have another week of bowl game predictions as well as the NFL season wrapping up and getting into playoff crunch time where the bubble teams are going to have to decide if they want to make the postseason or not. So that is going to be super interesting in both the AFC and NFC as we have multiple very close bubble teams currently. But to start it off, we're going to do a little transfer portal and recruiting recap / reactions because there have been some very interesting things that have happened this week, some very high recruits flipping to places that we weren't expecting. So Marco, can you start us off?
So to start it out, Dante Moore, the number 3 overall player in next year's class. I believe he's the number 1 QB, actually number 2 QB. And he flipped from
No, I
Oregon.
believe he's number 2 overall, number 1 QB.
Yeah. I think he's number 2 overall, number 1 QB. But yeah, he plays in Detroit. Um, Early on in the recruiting, looked like a Michigan lock, then commits to Oregon because of NIL and some family connections. But then after being committed to Oregon for 6 months, as usual, when recruits were commit that early, they end up flipping late, and he flips to UCLA. Big pickup for them considering Dorian Thompson Robinson's leaving. Um, he's going to be an incredible player. Shedeur Sanders also going to Colorado, obviously with his dad. Bo Nix is actually staying at Oregon instead of going to the draft, so the Pac-12 is going to be crazy. Dante Moore, Shedeur Sanders, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, just talent all over at the quarterback position, and Pac-12 is going to be have some scary offense.
Yeah, and like you said, Bo Nix staying at Oregon. And then the next thing I would say is that Michigan's transfer portal has been huge this past week. We've gotten 4 top 50 players, including an edge rusher from the greatest university in the world, Coastal Carolina, and he was one of their top defensive players. So that is a huge pickup, especially losing a guy like Mike Morris this year. That is that is a huge pickup. And then we also grabbed a few more O-line pieces, looking for a three-peat on the Joe Moore Award.
Oh yeah, definitely a huge pickup. Josiah Stewart's going to be a big time edge rusher with Derek Moore, and I believe Oki is coming back. So having him in that edge rusher rotation is going to be very big, especially with the lack of recruiting class for Michigan. Next up, Drew Pine commits to Arizona State. Not that big of a transfer. Another Pac-12 team getting a quarterback, but I'll say a bit of a podcast favorite. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, he's just
big.
not very good, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, he's not a very good football player, but his name is Drew Pine. Maybe he can drop some dimes at Arizona State and make a push for them in a pretty soft defensive conference. Next up, this is a big one for recruiting. The number 1 overall 2024 player, quarterback, decommits from Ohio State, Dylan Raiola. He was another guy that committed early, and then over the recruiting process, took some visits while being committed, and he decommits. Actually, a lot of people are saying Nebraska for him due to a family connection. I believe his uncle works on the coaching staff, but um, that would be a big pickup for Nebraska, but very big that Ohio State loses him, and especially with Michigan gaining a lot of traction on Jaden Davis. Ohio State could now not only have 1 year without an elite QB, but maybe a couple years, which would be very big for the rivalry.
Yep, and then the final major transfer of the week, Devin Leary goes to Kentucky, the former NC State quarterback. He announced it a couple hours ago. This is a pretty decent pickup for Kentucky, considering, I believe, because Will Levis is a senior this year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to the draft anyways. He's projected to be a first round pick.
Oh, true. Yeah, so that's good for Kentucky. Hopefully they can have another decent year. Obviously, it was disappointing for them after the way they started. But decent pickup here, getting an experienced guy that's had some playing time is definitely better than getting a freshman recruit that's probably no better than a 3-star. So, good pickup for Kentucky. Nothing much else to say about that.
Definitely interesting. Transfer portal continuing to heat up. The first day of the early signing day periods tomorrow. So next week we'll have a lot of big time recruiting things, including probably Nicholas Harbor committing, one of Michigan's top prospects, and lots of other guys who are going to be signing and committing in the next couple days. So definitely you should be keeping up with that. Next up, World Cup reaction. This arguably the greatest World Cup final of all time. We're gonna start off. Croatia beats Morocco for third place. We don't really care about that, but Argentina wins in possibly the most thrilling World Cup final of all time versus France for first place in the World Cup. This was truly an incredible game. Messi scored 2 goals. Mbappe had a hat trick. Went to penalties. France made a comeback. And actually, in the 123rd minute, France had a good opportunity, but Martinez, the Argentinian goalie, made an incredible save to send it to penalties, then made 3 saves in penalties to win it. So he wins the Golden Glove, which is best goalie. And Mbappe does get the Golden Boot for scoring the most goals. But this was truly just an incredible game to watch, even if you don't like soccer. Cal, what are your thoughts on the final?
Personally, I think everyone can agree now that Messi, greatest of all time soccer player, and then is on the other side of the ball, Mbappe. That dude is just so phenomenal to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if, as he lengthens his career, he deepens his legacy, he could even make a push for that. He is so good, so fun to watch. Like, a hat trick in the World Cup final is simply absurd. He carried his team to even be that close in this game. So truly heartbreaking to see that team lose. But very happy for Messi. Good win for Argentina.
Oh yeah, Messi finally gets his World Cup in his final World Cup, so very big for him. And pretty much ending the GOAT conversation for soccer. Next up, we're gonna talk about a little
Wait,
bit.
Marco.
What?
What do you think Mbappe has to do throughout the rest of his career to make a push for that GOAT conversation?
I think probably 5 Ballon d'Ors, which is best player in all of Europe. Probably another World Cup or two. Be the best player in those World Cups. Um, he just has to be dominant for the next 10 years, and he probably if he stays on this at this pace, I think he probably will be the go. I just don't see him staying at this pace. It's very hard to do for 10 years. I see him at around 28, getting a little worse due to the fact that he relies a lot of speed. But I definitely see him ending as a top 10 player of all time and going down as a legend for France and for all of soccer.
Yeah, I'd agree. Moving on, we have some college basketball. We're going to talk about the top 5 rankings. Started off number 1, Purdue, staying at number 1 despite having quite a struggle against Davidson. But they were able to pull it out and get the win. Marco?
Oh yeah, just like I believe an 8 point win against Davidson. That game was within 5 with 3 minutes left. But no one else really did anything that big besides Houston. But Houston isn't undefeated, which we will talk about later. But yeah, Purdue holding at 1, good for the Big Ten. At number 2, UConn. They're only here because they're undefeated. They've played absolutely nobody. They're beating up on bad teams. Maybe they're a good team, maybe they aren't. But I just don't know about UConn yet. They might not even be a top 20 caliber team. Maybe they deserve to be here. We just don't know anything because they haven't played anybody. Cal, why don't you take the next couple?
So at number 3, we have Houston getting a huge win over number 6, Virginia. This is a very good Virginia team. They beat teams like Baylor, like Illinois. So this is a very solid team. They beat Michigan too, not as impressive, but so they definitely beat a very solid team here. Their one loss is the reason they're not at the number 1 right now. They lost to number 8 Alabama, which is also why they haven't fallen too much. So this is a very good Houston team. Definitely Marcus Sasser, their young guard, is just leading, or not young guard, their senior guard is leading them really well right now, leading them in points with about 16 a game. So this Houston team is very good. One loss, it won't hurt them too much. I think they'll be one of the top ranked teams in the tournament.
Yeah, definitely a very solid team in Houston. They made a couple Final Four runs in the last few years, so maybe they can do it again, led by Marcus Sasser. Next up, number 4, Kansas. They absolutely destroy number 18, Indiana. Indiana, don't really see why you rank them in the top 20. Tracy Jackson Davis is good, but he's not that good. And the rest of their team is the same team that last year was a first 4 team, barely got out of the first 4. They got blown out by St. Mary's by 30. Like the only reason why they're ranked highly is because they're returning everyone. But usually when you're ranking someone highly when they're returning everyone is because that team was really good the year before. But this team just wasn't good the year before. So I don't like Indiana very much. I don't think they're very good. But solid win for Kansas, winning by 20 against a decent team. And to finish it off, number 5, Arizona beat number 8 Tennessee at their own arena. Well, at Arizona's arena. They won pretty handily. I mean, this game was very close with 5 minutes left, with 3-point game, but Arizona never really felt like they were going to lose. They were in control most of the game, and they deserved that ranking.
Yep, I would say that I. Excuse me. I was me. And then finally for college basketball, we're gonna do one game of predictions: Michigan versus UNC.
I mean, UNC just gained a lot of momentum with that big comeback win against ranked Ohio State. So definitely playing some better basketball than they were at the beginning of the year. But I mean, they're still not that good of a team. I mean, they're way more talented than Michigan. I mean, Orlando Baycott, Caleb Love, RJ Davis, Leaky Black, Pete Nance, former Northwestern guy. But I mean, those four and Baycott, Love, Davis, and Black is like Michigan can't really compete with that, but they just don't have much depth. I think that's why they're losing these games pretty close. And I think Michigan actually doesn't really have much depth either. But I just think we're going to find a way to win and finally win a close game for the first time in what feels like forever.
Yeah, even though UNC's not very good, it'd still be a very good win if we were able to pick it up here. Next up, we have a little bit of NFL recap of Week 15. A couple huge wins for playoff implications. Started off, the Patriots lose in, excuse me, on probably the stupidest play I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, just look up Pats versus Raiders final overtime play. Basically, what happened, they get it, so it's tied. Last play of overtime, they get it, they're running, they lateral it backwards, and then Jacoby Myers decides that he wants to play quarterback, and he throws it backwards like 20 yards straight to the defense, and they end up getting a pick six or a fumble six, even though it was in the air, to end the game in a win. So probably one of the stupidest plays I've ever seen. Marco, anything to say about how like just dumb your wide receivers are?
Well, I mean, it was the last play of regulation. Could have taken it into overtime, but I want to say that like that call that the refs made calling Cole in on that touchdown was one of the worst calls of the year. I mean, his whole toe was out. That was the only part of his foot that touched the ground. Pat likely would have not even had to play offense. Well, not had to do anything offensively if they called it out due to it being a 3rd and 10 at the 35-yard line with 20 seconds left. But I mean, Jacoby Myers, I mean, he owned up to it. He was just trying to make a play. I mean, clearly Pats did not want a lateral there, which is what a lot of people were saying, that Bill Belichick should get fired because he told us to lateral. I think it was just a player got caught up in the moment and made one of the stupidest plays of all time. Um, I'm not sure what he thought Mac Jones was gonna do with the ball, even if he made a perfect pass. Maybe Mac Jones would turn into Derrick Henry and truck the whole team, but I mean, a dumb play, but just a game that the Pats dominated. Well, not dominated, but made a good comeback in, and were in firm control in the end and deserved to win. But just a dumb play and a dumb call at the end ended up probably ruining our playoff hopes.
Yeah, unfortunately, that might be what cost you guys their season, which sucks because, like you said, it was just one play. You guys probably deserved to win that game, but it does happen. Excuse me. Next up, the Lions win in a very close one versus the Jets. The Lions did not look great offensively this game. Obviously, the Jets have a very solid defense. They've held very good teams to low scoring margins all season. And they were able to do the same with the Lions. But fortunately, for one of the few times this season, but showing a good trend in the past couple weeks, the Lions' defense has been able to step up, which they've continued the past few weeks. And I just think it's a very good sign that the Lions were able to win a game when they weren't playing their best. They get that record to 500. Now they have a weak schedule. They have the Panthers, the Bears, and the Packers, all of which they could lose, but all three of which are very winnable games. If they win all three, they're a playoff team. So very exciting for the Lions. Marco, anything to say about that?
Well, I mean, not guaranteed to make the playoffs, but certainly do not need a lot of help if they win all three. But I mean, I don't really see the Lions winning all three. I see them winning two, and maybe they can get in with some help. But very big win here. I mean, the Jets are so good at playing teams close. They played the Pats close twice, but I don't think the Jets are any good. I think they should probably end up tanking the rest of the season and getting another good draft pick. Then maybe next year they can be scary if they can find a somewhat decent QB. But big win for the Lions. Hopefully they can keep up the momentum. Next up, Cowboys get stunned in a play not as stupid as the Pats one, but maybe just as crazy. Overtime, 34-34 after Cowboys blow a 27-10 lead late in the third quarter. Um, so yeah, Jags, Cowboys ball actually. Dak Prescott throws it, bounces off, actually a little behind the player, goes through his hands, bounces off a Jags player's helmet straight into the hands of their corner, runs it back for a touchdown, game over. Jags actually still have their playoff hopes alive, which sounds pretty crazy, but they're playing some good football right now, and excited to see if Jags can make a nice little playoff run late.
Yeah, that certainly would be exciting. But personally, I just don't think they're a very good team, and I don't think they'll be able to finish out the season well enough to make the playoffs. And then finally, we have the biggest choke in NFL history, even statistically, the Colts losing a game in which they were up 33-0 in the third quarter. Even I can't believe this. I was watching this game. I was like, wow, this is a blowout. I turned it off mid third quarter or early third quarter when it was 33-0. And then I went to do something, and I came back and I checked the final score of that game, and the Vikings won. I was like, that can't be right. But it was. The Vikings performed the most miraculous comeback of all time and win 39-36 in overtime. Marco, anything to say about this one?
I mean that's just sad. Matt Ryan can't escape Atlanta. Um, I mean he's now blown the two biggest comebacks in NFL history. Jeff Saturday gonna be rough for him after just getting the job. But I mean, that just it sucks for the Colts. They would still be in playoff contention, and I believe control their own destiny with the win. Maybe they let up a little, thought the game was over. But if you're up 36-3 with like 3 minutes left in the third quarter, I mean, it should be impossible to lose that game. But it wasn't. Colts found a way. Matt Ryan found a way, and probably one of the games of the year. Yeah, just incredible how the Vikings were able to come back.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. And then next up, we have NFL Week 16 predictions. We'll start it off with the Eagles at the Cowboys. Marco, you want to talk about it?
Yeah. Eagles, Cowboys. Eagles win this. The division's over. They lock up the 1 seed for all the playoffs. Cowboys win it. They can maybe make a comeback in the division if the Eagles start to sell. But Cowboys are not that good. Eagles, I think, now have proven that they are that good. I see them being probably the number one Super Bowl contenders, and I think they're gonna easily handle the Cowboys despite this seeming like a big game.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Um, the Eagles probably going to be without Jalen Hurts, despite it only being a shoulder sprain. I would expect them to rest him probably until the playoffs, considering that they only need one more win to lock up that 1 seed. So I wouldn't expect him to play for the rest of the regular season, even if it's a minor injury. But maybe they risk it. I don't know. Personally, I would rest him, but you never know with these NFL teams. And I agree. I think the Eagles are going to get it done here. Next up, we have the Lions versus the Panthers. Huge game for the Lions, as have been every week since they were 1-6. Just a must win if they want to have a shot at the playoffs. I'm hoping they get it here. We've been playing super well. Jared Goff has been getting it done. Defense has started to step up. And this Panthers team has just showed some major inconsistency. Even though they did get that win a couple weeks ago against the Steelers and the Broncos, they lost last week versus the Steelers, which is a really bad loss. And I just don't think that they have the capability to win any more games. Marco?
Oh, technically the Panthers still control their own destiny. That's how bad the NFC South is. The Sam Darnold-led Panthers are indeed not going to win this game. They're not a good team. Lions have been playing like a good team. I think Lions win this game, and with some help, can start to control their own destiny and get into the 7th seed after this week.
Yep. Next. Oh yeah, because if they win, the Seahawks and the Commanders lose, they move into the 7th spot. So that is definitely a must win for the Lions. Next up, we have Cowboys getting stunned by the Jags. Oh, sorry. What am I talking about? Next up, we have the Bengals facing off against the Patriots. This is going to be a big game. Patriots, if they even want a shot at the playoffs, they're going to need this one. Bengals, almost a playoff lock, maybe one more win to secure their spot. But they're as good as in the playoffs. Patriots, on the other hand, most definitely need this one. Marco?
Yeah, we definitely need this win. If we lose, we're gonna tank. Pretty much no chance of the playoffs unless we beat the Vikings and the Bills and get help. But if we win out, we'll be in the playoffs. But we will not win out. We are going to get absolutely destroyed. I think the team just sort of lost it mentally after last week. If we win this game, then we're probably going to be in the playoffs. But if we lose this game, we're not a good team and we're going to tank. So could go either way, but I think the Bengals are going to win this game by double digits. It's going to be close early, but they'll pull away late and end the Pat season.
Yes. That would not be good for the Patriots, obviously, but it is very, very likely. And then finally, we have some bowl game predictions. We're going to predict everything except New Year's Six bowls, because that's what we will do next week. You can wait for that. So started off Coastal Carolina, the best team in the country, versus East Carolina. This isn't even a question. Battle of the Carolinas, but it's not much of a battle. This is going to be 85-0. Coastal Carolina is going to take home the dub. Marco?
Yeah, I feel bad for East Carolina. Their last game of this season is Coastal Carolina. Their first game of next season is Michigan. Their team should just give up after these 2 games. Even though Grayson McCall is transferring, I think he's still going to play in this game. I think, hopefully. But even if he doesn't, Coastal wins by 30. If he does, Coastal wins by 60. Not really going to be much of a close game here. and yet it's just not going to be remotely close.
Yeah, I mean, just straight up blowout. Next up, we have number 15, Oregon versus UNC. UNC led by that star quarterback, Drake May. Oregon led by Bo Nix, who will be returning next season. And my thing is, if Bo Nix wasn't playing, he had declared for the NFL draft, decided to sit out, I would probably take UNC with that high-powered offense. But due to the fact that Bo Nix is staying, I do see him playing in this game, and I think Oregon's going to get it done. Marco?
Yeah, also to the fact that UNC is not a good football team. They don't have a defense. Their entire team is transferring. If you're a decent player on UNC right now, you're in the transfer portal, unless you're Drake May. I think Josh Downs will play. That's pretty much their entire team. Josh Downs and Drake May haven't had a defense all year. They have 5 defensive players transferring, so good luck for UNC against Bo Nix led offense. I think Pac-12 is a better conference than the ACC, and this game is going to absolutely prove that. I think Oregon wins this game by 20 plus points.
All right, moving on. Oklahoma versus number 13, Florida State. This Florida State team is been on a roll towards the end of the season, and I think they're going to keep it going here. Oklahoma has just shown too much inconsistency this year. They have had some huge losses, just not even close games. And I think Florida State's going to get it done. I think they're starting to play some really good football. Marco?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you why they chose to put a 6-6 Oklahoma against a 9-3 Florida State. The one thing I would like to say, people are saying Florida State are playoff contenders, like top 4 team next year. No, they aren't. They're getting Jordan Travis back. They made a couple big deals in the transfer portal. That's not gonna fix your whole team. Getting your quarterback back, who he's a good quarterback. He's not a Heisman contender like people are saying. I think Florida State's good, but they're not that good. Unless the ACC gets even worse somehow next year, they're not going to be playoff contenders. But I do think they're going to win this game. I think it might be closer than people expect here. The Cheez-It Bowl, I think Dylan Gabriel will play for Oklahoma. And with him playing, they aren't that bad of a team. They haven't really gotten blown out or embarrassed in any games with him. But without him, they suck. But I think with him, give me Florida State 31-23.
All right. I like the prediction. Next up, we have number 20 Texas versus number 12 Washington. This Texas team has been very on and off this season, challenging teams like Alabama to some very close games, but also having some really bad losses. So, I mean, I could see this game going a few different ways. But personally, I just don't think that Washington is talented enough to beat this Texas team. Even though they've had some great wins, and their quarterback play has been great with Michael Penix, I just think this Texas team full of 5 stars, I think they're just going to get it done here with their straight-up talent advantage. Marco?
I mean, people have been saying that about Texas all year. They're just going to out-talent teams, but they haven't really been doing that. They had a close win against Iowa State. They lost to Oklahoma State by 7, TCU by 7. They lost at Texas Tech. Like they're not. They're just not that good. They're talented, but they're not that good. I think Washington's a more overall like sound team. Michael Penix coming back for next year. Him announcing that might give them some more to play for next year. Um, Bijan Robinson's probably gonna sit out. Since he's probably Todd McShay said he's going to be a top 5 pick. I don't think that, but he'll be a first round pick, best running back in the NFL draft. So I don't think Texas is that good, especially without Bijan Robinson. Give me Washington by a couple of scores. It'll be close, but not that close.
All right, interesting pick. That'll be a good one. Next up, we have number 22, Mississippi State versus Illinois. Illinois showed some promise against a very good Michigan team this year. They have a super solid run game, coupled with a pretty decent defense. This Mississippi State team, solid SEC team. Personally, I'm taking Illinois here. I think Illinois, I just think they're a good team, to be honest, and I just think there's been too much inconsistency with Mississippi State and with the situation that happened with their head coach. I think they're just not going to be able to win this one. Marco?
Yeah, I mean, Illinois is a top 5 defense in college football. They have Chase Brown running the football. I think Illinois overall the more physical team, and I think the more physical team is going to win this game. They'll get a lot of hits off against um, the Will Rogers led offense. But I just see them winning this. Obviously, Mississippi State playing for Mike Leach definitely gonna add another factor for the game for them. Maybe they can win it for him, but I still see Illinois winning this game. I think they're the better team, and I think Chase Brown has a big game and improves his draft stock for the 20.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely going to make a little statement for himself. Next up, we have number 21 Notre Dame versus number 19 South Carolina. This is a Notre Dame team. A tough loss towards the end of the season that they took, but they were on a little bit of a roll before that. On the other hand, South Carolina has been on a huge roll. Spencer Rattler has led them to a couple big wins. Has led them to a couple big wins in these past couple weeks, and I think they're going to continue to roll. They're really looking up towards on the way to next season, and I think if Spencer Rattler continues to grow like he has towards the end of this season, I think this team could be very dangerous next year, and I think they're going to get the win here. Marco?
Two big transfers in this game. South Carolina's starting tight end and probably their best receiving threat towards the end of the year. Jaheim Bell transferred. He transferred to Florida State, and Drew Pine, Notre Dame's quarterback, transferred to Arizona State. So a team without their best offensive weapon, a team without their quarterback, going to be interesting. But I think Spencer Rattler's way better than whoever Notre Dame's backup quarterback is. If it's Tyler Buckner, this game's going to be a joke. I think South Carolina is a better team. Michael Mayer might sit for the draft. Yeah, give me South Carolina here. I know Notre Dame plays them close, the more physical team, but South Carolina's the better, not more talented, but they're just the better team. So give me South Carolina here in a pretty close game, but I think they'll take care of business.
I would agree. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the Second Take Podcast. Next week, we will be bringing you a special edition of the New Year's Six Bowls. Look forward to that. All right. Have a good one. See ya.
Bye.